there are three main points of interest. Bethsaida, that's the birthplace of Peter and Andrew, and that would be at approximately 1 o'clock. And then there's Capernaum. That's an important location. That's the location of most of Jesus' teaching, and that would be at roughly 11 o'clock. And then the small town of Migdal, and that's the hometown of Mary Magdalene, and that would be a little bit south of Capernaum at 10 o'clock. Now, the Sea of Galilee is actually several hundred feet below sea level, and the most significant site along the shores of the Sea of Galilee would have to be Capernaum. And alongside there are still undeveloped hillsides just like those mentioned where Jesus taught the people. For instance, the Beatitudes, the feeding of the 5,000, all of those things happen on the hillsides in and around Capernaum. Now down at the shoreline, you can see the Church of St. Peter's primacy. The church stands above the ruins of an ancient house marked as the home of Peter, and that house stood directly across from the ruins of an ancient synagogue. And they are both from the same period, so the house existed at the same time that the synagogue existed. So it was really handy for Peter after he was the disciple of Christ. Not necessarily when he was a child, because as a child I think he sort of ran from the Lord, but as an adult, when he was sort of the lead disciple, he would simply walk out of his house, just take a few steps, and he was right on the steps of the synagogue where he would be preaching. Now, we were actually able to take a boat ride on the Sea of Galilee, which is really just a large lake. It's about 5 miles wide by about 20 miles long. And it was a rather calm day, and we were treated to a recording of the Star-Spangled Banner as our hosts raised the American flag in our honor. And as we heard the story of the calming of the sea, it was difficult to imagine a raging storm in such a beautiful and lovely place. But Mark's account of that story doesn't end with the stilling of the sea. And as we read further, we see that they made it to the other side. And so look at Mark chapter 5, verses 1 through 6. It says this, "And they came over unto the other side of the sea into the country of the Gadarenes. And when he was come out of the ship, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwelling among the tombs, and no man could bind him, no, not with chains, because that he had been often bound with fetters and chains, and the chains had been plucked asunder by him, and the fetters broken in pieces, neither could any man tame him. And always, night and day, he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying and cutting himself with stones. But when he saw Jesus afar off, he ran and worshipped him. And Jesus calmed the storm that was churning in this man's life. And the wonderful thing is that he will do it for us too. The Jordan River flows out of the southern end of the Sea of Galilee and dumps into the Dead Sea. That's somewhere to the east of Jerusalem. John the Baptist was probably born near Jerusalem in a town called Ein Kim, which is actually a part of modern-day Jerusalem. Now, we can't know the exact place where Jesus was baptized, but we believe that it happened as the Bible recorded it for us. Matthew chapter 3, verses 16 and 17 reads, "And Jesus, when he was baptized, went up straightway out of the water, and lo, the heavens were opened unto him, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove, and lighting upon him. And lo, a voice from heaven saying, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." And this is the wonderful truth. We would have never planned for the Messiah, God in the flesh, to come to earth for his redeeming work in this manner, in this humble place, in this way. But Bethlehem was where he was born. Nazareth was where he was raised. The Jordan was where he was baptized by John the Baptist. And the northwest corner of Galilee was where he found his disciples and prepared them for worldwide evangelism. Now, it doesn't make sense to us the way that this all happened. And the marvelous thing is this, that it doesn't have to make sense to us. Because the bottom line is this, what we see in the last part of verse number 17. And that is this. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. And though it doesn't make a lot of sense to us, the wonderful thing is that it's recorded for us that the way that it happened, exactly the way that it happened, with all the different things that we would question and would never plan and wouldn't consider if we were the ones in charge, they all fell into place. And they all fell into place as a part of God's divine will. And it didn't just happen and he was okay with it. It didn't just happen, he said, well, sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. And this is, all in all, it kind of worked out average. That's not the reaction. The reaction is that exactly the way it happened was what he wanted, because he was well pleased with it. A humble beginning, a rather simple upbringing, launching worldwide evangelism from this place, from this country. It's hard to even imagine that as you go there and visit. And that's 2,000 years later with all the modern advances that we have. But the wonderful thing is that was God's plan. And it is unfolding just as he willed it to unfold. And I'm grateful and thankful that I got to go to this place and experience a little bit of it for myself. As for me, I think I did discover a little bit more about my precious Savior, Jesus Christ, by being able to visit the places where he lived, the places that were influential in his childhood. I don't have photographs, don't have things like that, mementos that we can actually touch and look at, but being in the place has helped to make it a little bit more special for me. And I hope in some way this video presentation draws you just a little bit closer to your Savior. God bless you.